This is A World on Purpose.
A purposeful life is the most important kind and the most valuable kind of life.
Every choice that we make makes a difference, for better or worse.
I loved walking in a village and seeing the before and after.
This is the podcast dedicated to those humans choosing to live larger by working for the greater good. And these are their stories. Stories of hope and of true change that come from living on purpose.
What if you were to suddenly say there are no challenges, there are only opportunities?
Regardless of where you come from, your financial identity should determine where you end up in life.
I'm your host, Alyssa Fisher-Harris, and my hope is that my inspiring guests will take you on an introspective journey that helps you tap into your own pivot to purpose, bringing greater meaning to your life. Welcome to A World on Purpose. Hello, A World on Purpose fans and soon-to-be fans. It's me, your host, Alyssa Fisher-Harris. I and the rest of the team here at A World on Purpose hope you've been enjoying the show and the remarkable human beings who've graced our presence this year so far since we launched in November of 2020. They're the people that I call the Purpose Changemakers. Since this week is the last week of the year, we thought we'd take a little break from an actual guest interview and instead reflect back on all of the awesome guests that we had in 2020. Sort of a best of show, just to remind you who's been on and in case you've missed anything, help you catch up. If you've been following the show, you know that my guests in 2020 have shared really interesting and profound stories about their choice to weave the ethos of purpose into their work and into their lives. You've learned about all this great work being done in the world that you might not have known about, and perhaps in the process of hearing these stories, you might have learned a little thing or two about yourself. It was a joy and an honor for me to shine a spotlight on these outstanding individuals and bring it all to you. They inspire me daily, and I really hope they inspired you too. All in all, the goal of A World on Purpose is really to open minds to the prospect of what it means to integrate purpose into the core of what we do and in our lives and our work, and how that can often bring us even more meaning and more joy to our lives every day. So before we get to the clips, I did want to share with you a couple of really exciting things that we have in store for 2021. Of course, we have a whole range of terrific guests doing everything from purposefully designed AI and resilient tech to music and film producing geared towards purpose, and of course, NGOs across all sectors around the world driving purpose every day. We're going to have purpose platform creators and entertainers, executives in for-profit companies, large and small, educators, military leaders, politicians, and even someone leading purpose inside of a massive toy brand. Some of these purpose heroes you'll already know, and some will be what I call the change-making heroes that you don't know, but should. Each one will share their pivots to purpose and how their work is doing something for the greater good, and in turn, for their own hearts and souls. I mean, that's why I created this show, and I get really excited every time I get to bring you these kinds of stories. Additionally, we'll be activating our exciting collaboration with Causes.com and founder Bart Myers to finally give you a mechanism to mobilize your desire for purpose into action. We're doing that with what's called the Call to Action of the Week. And we'll be adding a new section of the website called A World on Purpose Community. This is a place for purpose change makers to put their information, share about all the great work that they're doing, and connect with one another. But more on that in 2021. So, if you've enjoyed the show and are excited about all that's coming in the next year and you want to see more of it, my team and I have one big ask. A World on Purpose needs a minimum of 100 subscribers, 100 good ratings, and 100 reviews on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and our video series on YouTube. This is going to help us get into the new and noteworthy, and we need this in the next 2 weeks. If you've already done this, then wow, we so thank you. But if you haven't, we kindly ask that you take this action, and if you can enlist your friends and family to do the same, that would be so terrific. Just forward this best of episode and tell them what they need to do. Your entire team here at A World on Purpose would welcome you helping us grow our audience and hear our great guest stories. Also, don't forget you can sign up for weekly show reminders, and we'll soon actually have new newsletters too at aworldonpurpose.com. Now, with all that out of the way, I have to close the year by for sure thanking all the amazing people that believed in me, that said this show idea was a great idea and that it was so needed in the world right now. I also for sure want to thank all of those who stepped up to support in making my dream of this show come to life. I can't list them all because it would take way too long, so if you want to know about them all, you can find them on aworldonpurpose.com. But it would be everyone from my awesome guests, my sponsors, my business partners, my friends, my family, my colleagues, of course, my show team that helped me execute this every week, and last but not least, all of you, our audience. Thank you all for taking a chance on A World on Purpose. Lastly, before we get into the clips, as we close this very turbulent and trying year, we reflect on what matters to us and our loved ones most. We get to ask ourselves questions that help us shape not just the coming new year, but questions that could shape the rest of our lives. So I ask you, how can purpose be more present in 2021 for yourself and for others? Do you feel that you're living your purpose? And if so, how can you too be an example for others to find and step into that purpose? And lastly, what does living in a world on purpose mean to you? 2021 actually holds a sense of hope for better days. And we can all be a part of that by working toward doing something for the greater good. When we do things that lift each other up, we're not just living in this world in some random way. We're all living together in a world on purpose. I'm your very grateful host, Alyssa Fisher-Harris, signing off and wishing you all a very happy new year. See you in 2021. Now enjoy those clips. Okay, hello everyone and welcome back to A World on Purpose. I am your host, Alyssa Fisher-Harris. Who would have thought that the last time we actually saw each other in person, that the next time we saw each other, we would be sitting in our homes on a Zoom call in the middle of a global pandemic? I mean, that never would have crossed our minds in a million years, right? Super, super excited to introduce to you my guest today, Kate Williams, who is the CEO of an organization many of you may have heard of called 1% for the Planet. And if you haven't, you're going to learn all about it today.
I've reached out to a lot of people for advice along the way, and they are, people who are older than me, that are younger than me, that are, have similar backgrounds that are different. I have always benefited from receiving that advice or input, and I've always felt welcomed. People like to be asked for advice. They want to support and help you. And so I would really encourage people to, as they're exploring the sort of boundaries of this new opportunity that they might find themselves in, to reach out to people, even if you don't know them, or, just find your way to them, or just ask. Because I think people really do. There's a lot of learning that we can do together. We are stronger together, and tapping into that when we're struggling is a really powerful opportunity.
I so agree with you. And I think there's a courageous vulnerability too, when we can admit maybe we're not feeling as confident in something. And when you're in a position like yours, a CEO, especially, people don't want to people wouldn't think that somebody would be lacking in that or doubting themselves or having to reach out to someone else to ask for advice. And to be able to have that courageous vulnerability to say, I might not have this figured out and I need to ask someone for some assistance. I personally think that there's more power in that than not. And it makes you a great leader and a great visionary.
Well, I absolutely agree that that vulnerability is key, because, the best thing about life is that we get to keep learning. And if you shut yourself off from that because you think that people expect you to know everything, you're missing out.
I am so thrilled to have my guest with us, Doug Pitt, who is a successful 30-year entrepreneur, adventurer, philanthropist, and is going to tell us some really exciting stuff that he's been working on.
I climbed Kelly a year ago, January, with my son. I had to walk down. Not near as fun.
That's fun. Right. How do you get the bikes up there, though? If you can't, do you hike them up and then ride them down, or do you?
There are certain portions that we rode, and it would have been fun to try to ride up, but they're so worried about you being in their job is to get you to the top. So you get the sign, and they were worried about people just, their body's not handling it. Because we've had triathletes not make it to top of Kelly. I've had a 65-year-old woman who was not in good shape make it. So there's sometimes your body just says nope at that kind of altitude. And so they thought on the bikes, oxygen-wise, it'd be a little tough. So we just rode some fun areas up. The porters helped carry them. And then he started at the sign and head down. And it was amazing. Crashed a lot, but it was fun.
Very cool. Well, I've been an outdoor athlete my whole life, rock climber, skier, mountain biker too. So having heard that story, I was pretty impressed because I don't even know if I'd have the guts to ride a bike down Mount Kilimanjaro. So nice work. And turning it into a fundraiser, that's just genius as far as I'm concerned. I love that.
In my mind, they are the dynamic duo of oceans and exploring and entrepreneurship and journalism and filmmaking. I mean, you guys do it all. So I would like to introduce Ashlyn and Philippe Castell. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So excited to have you guys here. You've talked about this meeting that you guys have had before. I mean, the beautiful thing about the two of you that I love so much is that not only do you guys get to live your life of purpose and do what you love, you get to do it with the person that you love, which is so rare and so amazing. And yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm incredibly fortunate, that's for sure. And she's definitely helped me up my game. I think one of my favorite stories from from when we met is that the photo they used to advertise this speech, I was in the Gulf and along the shore, and it was, full of mud and wet and ocean, etc. The currents were going in and the tide. And so I was wading in the water, so I had water shoes on, of course, as one would do. And so the photo has me crouched with like oil on my hands looking at the camera, and I'm wearing these water shoes.
So water shoes is a nice way to say they looked like horrible, ugly mandals.
I've heard you say that.
And I was like, my girlfriend forwarded me the poster, forwarded me the invite, and I was like, oh, that's kind of, and I remember looking at it, and I was like, that's sad. That guy could be cute if he wasn't so dorky in those mandals. And like when Philippe walked in the room that night and like, skinny jeans and like a really nice button-down shirt, I was like, my friend, what is that? She's like, that's the guy giving the speech. I was like, the dorky guy in the mandals. She's like, yeah. I was like, oh, well then we're definitely staying.
There you go.
It has helped me up my game since then, though I will say that I have converted her to the value of water shoes, mandals, sandals, whatever you want to call them.
I now have
when you're
water safety shoes or
when you're in wet places.
Yes.
You kind of need them.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to A World on Purpose. I am your host, Alyssa Fisher-Harris, as you know, and I am here with my amazing guest, Abby Wimamu, and his company called IsuzuRents.com. I want to dive a little deeper, too, into what is happening. And if you think, in your opinion, in communities where rent has been exorbitantly high already, like I live in Los Angeles, or San Francisco or New York, or even just around the country in general, do you think that the coronavirus and what's been happening is going to bring rents back down to a more affordable? Like are companies, are banks going to refinance for landlords, which means that they can have lower payments, which means the renters have lower payments? Or what is your opinion about what you think the aftermath of this will look like? I think we'd all love to know what your thoughts are on that.
It's a great question, but I'll take it a step further. We can't think about the future without understanding the context of the past. One of the biggest crises we've had in the United States is housing shortage, particularly, and very well researched and underscored, is affordable housing shortage. That's the reason why we have one of the biggest homelessness crises in the world today. COVID-19 has essentially exploded that, crisis and multiplied the kind of, disaster that it's looming. So the question about what is going to happen with the future of rent, prices, or are we going to have government step in, or what does the future of mortgages look like, is really dependent on how we've built our structure today as a society. We've built a structure whereby we've left a lot of, African Americans, Hispanic, and other people of color behind. And we've built a system whereby, if you're renting, there's not an opportunity to build equity outside of the work companies like ours are doing to make sure you get credit for it. And then we've also built a system whereby we fundamentally, in all honesty, right, marginalized and left a lot of people behind. So in that sense, we built a mansion on a sinking sand. The question is, we have an opportunity to right that wrong moving forward. How do we take out the sinking sand and lay a solid foundation so we can have something that stands and realize the full potential of the United States of America?
So I am welcoming my guest today, Macdis Keshevars, founder of the Make Agency, and she's coming to me live from Los Angeles. Hi, Macdis. Welcome to A World on Purpose.
Hi, Alyssa. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited.
I am too. This is very fun. It's fun. Actually, we were just talking about how we got to dress up for the first time in what seems like a decade almost, right?
I was going to compliment you on your perfume. You smell very
Thank you. I did spritz myself a little bit, just, so if it were a scratch and sniff screen, that would have been really cool. When you did that, what was it specifically that made you want to not just do traditional PR, but specifically the term of social justice? Obviously, working with the United Nations and all that things, but how did you know to shape an agency that was geared towards that area of need?
I think that in this day and age, I think the time that we're living in now makes you look back on your own past and reflect differently on what brought you here, And I have found for myself that much of the difficulties I face living in America as a minority, as a woman, as a Muslim, as a has really shaped me to kind of look on the fringe a lot of times. And I found a home on the fringe of many times. When I was younger, I was a punk rock kid. As I grew up, I was, into weird music and art and all those things, and communities where people might identify as the weirdos, and simultaneously being part of an immigrant community, and not just one immigrant community, but many different immigrant communities that made up the fabric of the people that I surround myself with. And that really helped me build relationships. So going into my work life in my early 20s, I had maybe a different perspective of things because I saw myself on the fringe. And I found that many of the other people around me that were living on the fringes weren't being represented.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back again to A World on Purpose. I'm your host, Alyssa Fisher-Harris, and we are engaging with our amazing, beautiful, just life-transforming guest, Katherine Trujillo. You had spoken about how the Birthing Project wasn't just about the babies, and it was something greater. And I would just love for you to articulate that to our audience, because I thought it was just so beautiful and profound and very timely for things that are happening in our world today. So welcome back, and please share if you choose.
Thank you. It's good to be back. So people think that I do this work because I love babies. I'm a baby person. But actually, I think I'm not a baby person per se. I don't do this work because I love babies. I do this work because I love big people. And I love big people to be able to be the best human beings that they can be. And the way that happens is to go back to as close to the beginning of life as possible and bring people forward in a good way. That is the heart, to me, of the Birthing Project, of actually seeing each human's potential, imagining that human potential, and then doing the things to call forth that potential in each human being and to support and nurture them so that they can grow. I think that when we end up and we look at people that are basically throwaway people, part of why they're throwaway people is because we haven't done the best job of helping them be the best that they can be. That's the heart and soul, really, of the Birthing Project.
And as always on A World on Purpose, we love to bring you incredible content from inspirational thought leaders that are living with what we call not just with purpose, for purpose, but also on purpose. Today, I am beyond excited to have my guest with me, Ms. Avery Kent, who is co-founder of conveners.org. And she's also a serial entrepreneur with a background as a scientist, which will be an interesting discussion as we get into it.
And so a lot of the work I've been doing is around founder circles. How do we create peer communities that aren't just about safe mental and emotional spaces to be vulnerable, but are also about the problem solving and the tactical level of like, how do we genuinely help each other? And where I'm so excited to be working alongside the incredible team at Kaiser Permanente is that there is a unique opportunity to leverage a lot of their clinical experience and methodologies to, I think, offer a different take on some of this support. And our hope is to be able to produce materials that can support business leaders, whether it's on a self-directed journey or through a cohort experience or just through these kind of founder circle frameworks. Like, how do we help folks really connect with peers who have been there, done that, have lived that, and who, when you say you had $600,000 evaporate overnight, they know what that feels like.
For everyone who's tuned into A World on Purpose, I hope so much that you've gotten some incredible, valuable knowledge and information about how to find your pivot to purpose. Please go to aworldonpurpose.com and tune in to our show on a regular basis, because you're going to meet more incredible people like this over and over and over again. And hopefully we will inspire you to find your pivot if you haven't found it yet. Thank you so much for tuning into A World on Purpose. I'm your host, Alyssa Fisher-Harris, and we'll see you soon.
We have a cat showing, by the way. So,
cat's name. Wait, you can't show it and not tell the name.
That's Rocky. It's my daughter's cat.
Thank you for taking this journey into A World on Purpose with our incredible guests. To learn more about our amazing guests and their inspiring purpose-driven work, please go to aworldonpurpose.com. Don't forget to look at our call to action of the week to mobilize your desire for purpose into action. A World on Purpose can be found on Apple Podcasts and all the major podcast platforms, and the video version can be found on YouTube. If what you heard today inspires you, please write a review and like and share on the platform of your choice. We'd love to also hear from you and learn your pivot to purpose and the meaningful work that you do that lifts humanity. Send your stories to info@aworldonpurpose.com. I'd like to thank our World on Purpose team for making this show a reality. Once again, I'm your host, Alyssa Fisher-Harris. Thank you for tuning in to A World on Purpose. I look forward to seeing you soon.